I'm Tiffany,
And I'm Kelly.
and we're your revenue insiders. We are here today with David J. Ebner, the founder and president of Content Workshop, a B2B content agency that you started back in 13 while you were still at University of Tampa. He is also the author of Kingmakers, which you can find on Amazon, and was arguing long before it was fashionable to do so that writers and creatives are the actual kingmakers in the B2B world. Brand voices are what win, and chasing clicks lose. From his agency in Clearwater, Florida, David now runs one of the most respected content practices in the country, deep niche in cybersecurity, which I just came out of that world. It's a fascinating place to be right now, and it's great from a content creation perspective because those are some of the most cynical buyers in the market, from my experience at least. But for Kelly and I, what makes you super interesting is you've built your space and your career in an area that generative AI is really pushing into hard. From the first time everyone turned on OpenAI, ChatGPT, it started using AI to write things on behalf of them. And so, really interested to talk about what a career in your space looks like, how that's evolving with the use of AI, and what the right use of AI is going forward. So, this is going to be a fun conversation. Welcome to the Revenue Insiders.
Thanks for having me. I am very excited.
I would love for you to start with, I gave obviously a very brief overview of your career, but I'd love some background on how you got to where you're at right now, running the agency.
Yeah, okay. I probably all starts when I was a wee little boy. I grew up in a small town in Ohio, and I have four siblings. So there's a lot of us running around, and I remember trying to get the time and attention of my mom was always kind of difficult because she was so busy. She's making dinner, she's caring for all of my siblings. So I would start telling her these fantastical stories of what happened in my day. I'm completely like lying, just complete lies. But I would keep going until I got some sort of emotional reaction from her. And like, that's absolutely impossible. There's no way that happened kind of moment, right? And that's really kind of where storytelling started with me. I studied storytelling in the artistic classical form in school, multiple degrees in creative writing and the student loan debt to back that up. So for me, it always started with the story. It always started with the narrative, with the emotional connection between an individual and the storyteller, and that being an intentional connection. So through that, I got connected with some copywriting gigs when I was in graduate school, and I was like, wait a second, this is directly applicable. Everything I've studied, go figure. I can actually make money doing it in this space. And what was appealing to me is that when you create content, you have the ability to see the impact you have in somebody's life immediately. It's both good and bad, but you see the clicks, you see the comments, you see the responses. I wrote a lot of advertorials in my early days. So people would literally like cut them out and bring them in. And I'm like, that was an ad. And they didn't even know. Right. So those types of emotional connections were really important to me. And that's kind of what started my work at Content Workshop. It really was an agency. It was a co-op of freelancers, right? We just called ourselves a company because we got more gigs that way. And then over time, of course, that part grew and grew. And we just kept hiring more artistic writers, graphic artists, and started to like teach them how to use that art in a commercial way. And here we are 13 years later.
Writing is not something that I'm especially great at, but I do love speaking. Obviously, I'm on a podcast and I love speaking on stage and in different forums. And I think I'm so impressed by people who can put things in the written form in a way that draws people in. So thank you for your skill. But I'm going to hit the hot topic right away, which is so scary. I think I have fear about it. Tiffany has fear about it in the RevOps space. How is AI changing your world?
It's changing it a lot. Definitely when OpenAI and ChatGPT for the most part came out with, I forget which version it was, but people were really starting to talk about it then, and 2022, somewhere around there. I had like a crisis of conscience, right? Like, what am I? What am I doing? Did I just go to school and spend $100,000 on something that isn't? I've got payroll to meet. I have people who have trusted me to be a member of this company, right? And then I realized very quickly, though, to your point that you've just made, there's some people who don't like writing, right? So the first thing you go to AI to do is to help you with the things you don't like to do. Nobody goes to AI and says, oh, you know what I really love to do? I really love writing. Let's have AI do it for me now. So the goal of AI, and really where its best use cases, is take the tedium out of your tasks, right? Like how do we like extract the things that we don't want to do? It's like, if only we could say, Alexa, do the dishes, right? Like that's what we want to use AI for. So in the
Gosh, can we please
come
Someone.
on.
fold the laundry?
Yeah.
Please, Alexa, fold the laundry and load the dishwasher.
Exactly, right? It doesn't do that yet. Someday, hopefully, right? But, people went straight to writing because a lot of people don't like to write. I love to write, Now, with that being the case, there's this assumption that it can do it well, right? So a lot of people, unfortunately, are jumping to the end, which is like, well, let's just have the AI system do everything for us on the content side. We'll have it come up with the ideas, we'll have it source the material, we'll have it draft it, we'll have it edit it, we'll have it publish it. Like we can just take the whole system out of the human side and just have AI do it. And we know what that produces, right? Like you can see that across the internet right now. I don't know if I consume a lot of content, and you can see it and you're like, this is just a lot of words that say nothing. And that's starting to catch up to people to a degree, but there is this assumed ability of AI to produce high quality things, because there's an issue between kind of like the gap between what is passable and what is good. And the problem is what is bad, the gap between what is bad and what is passable has shrunk significantly. So you can produce something that is passable very quickly, but the gap between what is passable and what is good has grown. So differentiating in that space is much more difficult now, and you actually have to spend a lot of time and energy on it. So it's eaten our lunch, no question. AI is eating my lunch. It's a bully that's taking money away from me, but it's also a tool that, if deployed at the right part of the process, can actually accentuate and accelerate the content creation process and not dilute your creativity and your brand storytelling. That's what I've been spending the last 4 years on, essentially.
It's so interesting because one of the things that I saw, and I just left the corporate world in the cybersecurity space. And one of the things that I started to see, both in my company, but in talking to other peers elsewhere, is that the sales team started pushing back on product marketing and just saying, like, I can create this in AI myself. Like, I don't need you to do this. And it has some of those, like, they can leverage some of those people owned components. Like they can take the product marketing written things that they had and be like, but that's not how I want to say it. And I think I can do it better. And we started to have this sprawl of content that was passable but not good because they had taken it on the last mile and lost that human touch. I'm curious, like double click in what you said around like putting it in the right place. Do you use it to get to passable and iterate for good? Or like, how do you think about AI in the world that you live in day to day?
I think for me, the thing I hate doing the most is actually editing. I like the writing. I don't like fixing it if it's bad, right? So the best place we found to deploy AI is really kind of look through what are the elements of the human creative components of content creation. Like, let's just speed up all the processes around that so that we can get a high quality product. I always push for higher quality sooner in the process. It is going to save you time and energy if you're out there and you're producing content and somebody's got to review and edit it and they work for you, or they're your boss, or they're a client, and that piece is not good. You're going to be in trouble, right? Your competency, your trust is going to be diluted. So speed to quality is always going to be how I lean on that, right? So we're actually spending a lot of time using AI for like data processing in the content generation cycle, right? Like early on, can we feed our keywords? Can we feed our brand inputs? Can we have something come up with the ideas, some topic ideas, or show us sources of material of what our target audience is reading today? That is huge. AI can do that very well. Now, then the human selecting kind of like what to do with that and shaping it before AI starts to create something is extremely important part of the process. And AI can create like actually good content with the right context fed into it, right? Context window is everything. We used to think it was like prompt engineering, but really it's just the whole memory span of everything you're sending in is what is going to affect the output. So you can build agents that don't use M dashes all the time. You can build agents that don't say, let's dive into this at the beginning of every, like you can edit out the AI part, program out the AI language. You can program out the words that don't make any sense, or even the sentence structure. Let's talk about sentence structure for a second. AI will feed you the exact like type of sentence 5 times in a row. Nobody wants to read like that. It's boring. You need to have short sentences that are also like in the middle of longer sentences. Like that all matters quite a bit. AI will give you words that don't mean anything because it's predicting what the next common word is based off of a data set that's not very good. The internet was never a good data set in general. So like, why did we use that as the data set? So anyway, all that being said, I could get on a soapbox all day long, but if you infuse it at the right steps of the process, build agents that are informed and tested, and then you have a human in the loop function for feedback, it'll only get better over time. But the goal for me is always quality as early on in the process as possible and as many of the steps as possible, right?
That really resonates with me. Recently, just subscribed to Apple News. And because of that, in the podcast app on Apple, I'm able to, they narrate their articles. And I think I've been consuming so much news via TV or via podcasts, conversational podcasts, that I had forgotten what great journalism sounds like in the written form. And I'm slightly obsessed with it. Over the last 2 weeks, I think I've listened to 2 or 3 articles every day because it reminds me of like what good writing sounds like and what great communication sounds like. And I think we've lost it. And so I love your point of get the quality first. Use AI for the editing piece or the supplemental piece, but get your thoughts on paper in a way that are truly yours. Because it almost like shocked my system when I first started listening to these articles, because I was like, oh my gosh, yes, this is what the good stuff was back in the day. And we just don't get that anymore.
I think too, I think about like the RevOps space, and the role of a RevOps person is like fundamentally changing in the world of AI. Like you are an architect now, you are engineering the output of things. And that very much is what you're describing from like a marketing and content creation, is you have to step into this context architect role where, you know, maybe the salesperson in the future is creating their own bespoke content, but in an environment where you make sure that the brand is represented and the context is all there and all the information is there, so that the voice can speak, like, you know, that last mile can happen, and you can produce way more content that way. But I still think there's this like danger of like slipping back to passable, because you start getting into this efficiency trap where you want to do as many things as possible. And you're, you know, even as you went on that spiel, I was like, oh, and we should edit that agent that we built, Kelly, to like definitely think about sentence structures when it's editing our blog posts. And so I think it's really easy to just fall back in that trap of efficiency. How do you stop yourself from doing that and make sure you continue to focus on the quality side?
Yeah, I think reading to double click on what Kelly said. You become a better writer and creator when you start to read higher quality things too. Spend more time consuming higher quality content, and you will start creating higher quality content because you'll have discernment. You'll know what good looks like. And that's the one thing that AI cannot do. It cannot discern. It cannot tell you what good is or what bad is. All it can do is check against a checklist that you give it, right? So it's very important that humans are a part of that process. So keep reading, read good news, right? Get out of the talking head space, right? Like read a long form article, listen to read or listen. Go ahead, listen to a book, an audio book that's from a contemporary author that, you know, uses language in a way that just like excites you, right? So you have to have those connections. You have to live a life to have something to write about. That's usually the part that's missing for a lot of people. You know, it's tough. And to your point, like there's just we do this for clients every day. We actually launched a whole part of our business as our AI studio. We'll build those agents. We'll help them. Like we have out of the box stuff that we use every time that we can just bring in that will make the sentence structure better. It matches the foundations of good storytelling from a, you know, grammatical point of view that we've been doing for 13 years. We just literally write out like, it's like training a junior writer, right? We just write out like, don't do this, do this. You know, that's very important. And to your point, Tiffany, I think you're absolutely right. If the guardrails are set the right way, anybody can create great content if the guardrails are set the right way. If there is a brand knowledge base that's cross-checking things, that's using words appropriately, if there are agreed upon personas and target audiences that we're always going to target, that's extremely important when creating AI content. People forget about like adding who the audience is in there. Pivotal, right? And that's easy to forget. It's easier to forget that somebody's going to have to read this thing. And we're so trapped in like building it quickly and efficiently and moving on to whatever's next that we don't stop and say like, oh, like how's this going to make that specific person feel? Anyway, so again, there's so many different variables there, but I do agree that we're not too far off from just really anybody on your RevOps team being able to create content, but you have to have marketing or somebody build those guardrails.
We talk about ICP and persona a lot on here, and how in our customers, we often find that that's one thing that they slip back into forgetting that, this is our ICP. We need to be focused here. This is the persona we're talking to. So I have a selfish question for you. A lot of my customers, I work with them on enablement. And so oftentimes we're rolling out new messaging, new branding, new content from firms like you. And one thing that I hear and I see over and over again, I'm actually working with a customer right now, and I was reviewing their messaging, and then I went to like 4 competitors' websites, and I was like, you all sound the same. Yep. Like literally using the same words. In this world where everyone's using AI, so they all do sound the same, how are you helping brands separate themselves?
Great question. And really kind of our main value proposition is to be able to zig where everybody else is zagging, right? Like that's always been true. That's really always been true. We've kind of just like forgotten it. We've been so forced into this box of efficiency that we've forgotten everything outside of that box, right? There's corporate pressure, there's executive pressure to like use these tools to reduce staff, to all those things that are happening without a clear goal or objective in mind, right? Other than saving money or whatever it may be, right? So yeah, knowing how to do something foundationally on a manual front before you try to automate or give it over to a computer to do it is vital. We're seeing this today with all the vibe coding that's going on, right? Like I can use Claude Code all day long and create things, and I'm getting better and better at it. However, I have no idea how to fix the shit that I just created. Excuse my French. I have no idea how to fix the stuff I just created. And that's a problem. And the same is true on the language side and messaging side, right? So if we're using AI exclusively, we're going to sound like everybody else, certainly. If we don't know what good looks like and we don't have discernment and we don't know how to create good using just this, then we'll never be able to fix those things, right? So one of my team members said, if your content agency or your brand storytelling agency didn't exist before AI, you're going to have a bad time. And it's not because they don't have skills that are available to them. They just don't know the foundations of how these things work. And maybe the day will come that you don't need to know those things to fix them, but that day hasn't come yet. So anyway, to answer your question, I don't know. I just find smart people who help me do it, right? And that usually gets us across the finish line. But it's easier to both harder to differentiate because everybody's using these tools and being kind of like forced into this box of using them, but also easier to differentiate if you know everybody's doing the same thing. If you know everybody's playbook because it's the same, you can easily break that mold.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way to look at it. It's easier to go to zig instead of zag when you know all the zagging. It's all very apparent. Mm-hmm. As you were just talking, it made me think of several episodes that we've had recently on various different conversations, like different talking points around like coaching and sales methodology and enablement. And it all seems to boil back down to like the skill you need to be good at in any of these roles before you get to automation is discovery. You need to be able to ask important questions to understand what you're trying to do. And you just said it again for this, which I wouldn't have put before you said it, I wouldn't have put that at the front of my head of like, oh, to be good at content creation and marketing, I need to be good at discovery. I need to be good at writing. That's what I think of, or editing, and like, how can I automate that? But it's so apparent now that you've said it, that of course you have to like understand everything you're going to do before you can even put pen to paper or fingers to Claude Code or whatever you need to do. Do you have a process that you go through to kind of like, especially like with junior writers or people you're onboarding with companies to help like drive really good discovery to get you to that like zigging instead of zagging?
Yeah, from a messaging and like a voice kind of point of view, which we spend a lot of time still building voice identities for brands, even more now, it seems like. So maybe AI is actually pushing people back toward us on that front. We have a well vetted process of the questions we ask, but a lot of it has to do with just curiosity, being a curious person. If you don't care how something works, you won't ask the questions, right? So our team, one of our core values is curiosity for our company, and we just hire people who are curious by nature. Curiosity is not a trained skill. It's something you're either a curious person or you're not. And sometimes it has to do with the subject matter, certainly. But you talked about cybersecurity, Tiffany. There's people who like are just nerds for it. And we just happen to have a lot of writers who are nerds for it. We have a ton of people who are past journalists that work for us. They're very good at asking the follow-up question, because you can have a list all day long, but it's all about the follow-up, right? Like, how do you dig in deeper into something? How do you pull out the nugget of what was just said? And then how do you be a conduit for all that information you just brought in and then translate it to the target audience in a simple yet informative way, right? That is really hard to do. Still very much a skill that needs to be nurtured. So, that helps quite a bit, having curious people in the room asking the questions. Having questions already pre-baked helps, but like, be open to going off script for sure. Understanding kind of, you want to get to an emotion. All great storytelling, all great content and messaging comes down to making somebody feel a certain way. And that somebody is the target audience. We kind of glazed over personas a little bit. And we talked about how important they are, but I think we forget, and it's easy to forget right now with AI, that your brand story has really nothing to do with you and everything to do with your target audience and how you make them feel. And the hero of your brand story is the audience, not you. So that's a tough hill to get over, especially for small businesses who are founder led, who the reason why the company started in the first place is because they went out and took a risk. They knew something and how to help people in a certain way. But at some point in time, you have to realize that your story is not the brand story. The brand story is for the people who you help, right? So that helps kind of put it into context. And if you can start to like have conversations that gear toward that end result, know where you want to go. You don't have to know exactly how to get there. Know questions you want to ask, but don't over prescribe like what comes next, and be curious by nature and seeking to understand how something works. And that's really the big difference between great content and okay content. Okay content informs people.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that's the stuff that's being gobbled up by AI overviews and AI in general. It's just like, give me some information. Great content educates people. They leave a piece of content knowing how to do something they didn't before. It's educational. It still has to be engaging. It still has to be entertaining. Honestly, we're not writing term papers here, right? Like, people have an option not to read this. So you have to entertain them. And you can do that with language and word choice, topic matter, whatever it is. But you have to provide them something that they can take away and then go use. There has to be an outcome. If you can get to that, you're on the right path. All difficult to do, though.
I think about, we'll stay on cybersecurity for a second. Sorry, Kelly, but like the whole Anthropic mythos, like conversation that's happening, I have a lot of that in my feed. I think specifically because of the cybersecurity connections that I have, but everyone does right now. And all I see is information. Like you just described it perfectly. I'm getting very little education. I think people don't know, but there is so much content now out there that's being written about like what is happening or what this means, but it's starting to feel like AI slop, even when it's not, because they're all just feeding off of each other and it's this like same theme. So I love that, like that framing of like informing versus educating, because I haven't found enough content in that space, and I'm interested in it. It's game changing on that side of the house. That's really like educating yet there. So like none of it is like really reeled me in.
Yeah, and it's got to be SME informed, right? Like that's how you educate. You get a subject matter expert who knows how to do it, and you give away a little bit of the secret sauce. You got to be okay with that. If you want to create content that builds trust with an audience, you have to tell them a little bit of how to do something that might like tangentially tied to the product or service that you provide people. You're just going to have to. Content is partly corporate philanthropy, and you've got to be okay with that if you want to draw people in. So, if you can have all the information in the world, then run it through an SME. Right? Like that's how you get that education. Yeah.
So the part you're talking about with the SME is what I actually think a lot of brands are struggling with. And the reason is they have raving fans, as a lot of tech companies like to say, but getting them to make the space and create the space for your brand is really difficult. What have you found effective when you're working with a brand and you need them to get their fans and their supporters to speak on their behalf? Like, how have you tackled that problem, or how do you coach your clients?
It has a lot. It's very similar on the sales side too, and it's always answering the question like, "What have you done for me lately?" Like you always need to have an answer for that, right? Customer success needs to always have an answer for that for their clients. The sales, you have to have that. If they're in a sales prospect and in the funnel, you have to keep providing value. Same thing on the marketing side. What have you done for me lately? You can't, they say you can't fundraise until you friend raise. In the nonprofit fundraising space where I spend some of my time as well, you can't fundraise until you friend raise, but you have to build that trust first. You can't go from nothing to saying, well, it would be great if our clients were like talking about us more. Okay. Well, you got to build that trust and you got to build that up first. So a campaign in which to do that, a campaign that's a value first campaign, providing value to a target audience with asking nothing in return, followed up then by those that engage on the highest level, asking them to be evangelists for the brand. There's a step process in that, like a funnel, if you want to think of it that way, of how to get, or pipeline, how to get people to that point. And you have to be very direct and ask them. There's so much nibbling around the edges of like, oh, it'd be great if you left us a review. Here are 4 different places to leave a review. No, like, be direct. Tell them exactly. Thank you for consuming this article. We'd really love it if you left us a review on Google. Here's a link to where you can do that. You have to have one action for the target audience. You have to be very direct with what you're asking of them. You have to thank them for their time and attention in advance of doing it. And you have to have done something for them lately for them to say yes. That's the only way. And again, I use the review as a pinpoint there, but it could be anything. It could be anything on the evangelist side for a brand.
Yeah, I think that ties really well back to like what you said. I love the nugget of like the hero of your brand story is the audience and not you. I think one of the things, as someone who's been a consumer, a buyer of a lot of tech software over my career, and often asked or put myself in that like evangelist position, a lot of it comes from the company also recognizing like I am a SME in that area, and like giving that, like elevating my career in ways that helps me, because by me being a better person in my career, I can elevate them. And so I do think that audience focus, persona focus is like what it really comes back to. Like, you have to be an evangelist of the people who you want to buy your software, because you need those roles and those people for your company to be successful ultimately.
Yeah, exactly. And I actually just did this. So it's actually really great timing that we're talking. I don't know when this is going to go live, but we just launched our new software tool called Chatter on Monday, which is essentially doing a lot of the stuff we're talking about, which is like tying in together like where AI really should fit in the content funnel, tying in together like how you should reach out and provide value and help to people, whether you're on the sales side or the marketing side, building those guardrails for anybody to use it. That just came out. And I literally just posted before we recorded this because a friend of mine was saying that they're looking for a gig. And I'm like, how? Like, I can use Chatter. I've been using it to build thought leadership content on my LinkedIn for the last few days. He could do the same thing, and he could do it, and that would help get him visibility and brand awareness in this space that's called LinkedIn, so that when he does go for an interview and people look at, what's he doing online? They're going to look him up, right? Probably before the interview even. What does he have opinions about things? Is he an expert? Does he just, claim to be? What does he post for himself? And I was like, well, this is a great opportunity. Go use this. The tool's free, so you can go use it. But I'm like, but I can also give him some like extra tokens. Like, it uses tokens when you generate stuff in there. Like, let's just give anybody extra tokens if they're looking for a gig, right? Like, when they go and get that gig, maybe they'll use the tool, maybe not, but like just helping people in the space and providing value that is tangential to the service and solution you provide in general that some people pay for is all marketing is. It's demonstrating expertise for free and giving people and helping people online, and the good things flow. The good things flow thereafter. So sorry to like derail this into a product conversation, but it's like perfectly in line with the things that are happening in my life right now.
Well, thank you for that. I think I know for a fact we have a lot of listeners that are currently in the job market and thinking about how they differentiate themselves. was talking to someone the other day that she's currently employed, so she's not desperate for a new role, but she's looking for what is next. And she said, I have people at the company who are recommending me, and it's still not enough. What do I do? And I think you make a really good point around the first place they're going to look is LinkedIn. So what do you have on there that shows that you have a really strong point of view on something? So thank you for that.
Yeah. And I, depending on when this goes live, I gave the offer on there. If you comment on that post, I'll go in the back and just throw some extra tokens in your account so you can have a little more use case. So feel free to do that.
Well, that's great. And I really think the analogy you made there is like, we were talking kind of about companies and the brand, like making the audience the hero, but like you have a brand, like as an individual, all of us have a brand, and you have to think about that when you are searching for a job, whether you have one or not. Like, what is the brand you're portraying, and who is your buyer of your brand? Who do you want to hire you, and like, what do they need from you? And so I think it's a great way for anyone in any role to utilize that, the kind of some of those like gold nuggets you gave us, and think about like how they put that into practice just for themselves and building their credibility and job searches.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, people, there are no more, I mean, there are still channels, but people are channels now. Like that's the best way to think about marketing is like every person that works for you, every team member that's a part of your company, they are a channel and a conduit to a potential audience. So like you building up your own profile will only help you on that front. And if there's things out there that help you accelerate or take the tedium out of this part, like I never have a hard time writing. I have a hard time thinking like, what would anybody care to even know about? Like, why would anybody read this? Just because I have an opinion on something, is that worth telling the world? But when I can tag it to something happening right now in my space or for my target audience, then okay, that's the starting gun, right? So, but building your own profile up is going to be how people like look at employees in the future.
We are at the point in our episode where we are starting to wrap up, but we would love for you to leave everyone listening with a question they should think about to help them form this point of view, change their behavior, really think about how they're using AI or generating content.
I would just challenge everybody to think about how they want somebody to feel when they consume whatever it is they're creating. Whether you're on the sales side and you're sending a one-to-one message to a prospect that is cold and you're just looking for a reason to reach out, like how do you want them to feel when they see it, when they get it? If you're marketing and you're trying to like draw in a target audience, like how do you want them to feel when they consume whatever that piece is? I think that's a great starting point. That intentional emotion that you're trying to impart is only going to like reinforce every step of the process thereafter. I guess the question, it's less of a question and more of an introspective comment, but ask yourself, how do you want somebody to feel when they engage in these things?
So I write myself sticky notes when I want something. I want to remember something on a regular basis. I will be putting this on a sticky note right on the corner of my screen because that is so important. And I know I'm guilty of not always thinking about that. I know I have something important to share and I want to share it, but very non-regularly do I think about the fact, like, how will this post make them feel afterwards?
Yeah, it's important. I mean, in the end, that's all we have once we're, you know, gone from this mortal plane.
Yeah.
All we will have is how we make people feel. So maybe it's more like a personal vendetta or what I try to aspire to in my life in general, but why not do that in every aspect of our life? Like, why are we bifurcating our work from our personal lives in a way that we have different values or aspire to different things? So anyway, I think it's helpful across the board with everything.
Yeah.
I love it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about that for sure.
Yeah.
So people want to learn more about you, your business, this amazing new software tool you just came out with. Tell us more. Where can people find you?
LinkedIn is actually the best place to communicate with me. I have posted recently apologies to everybody that I'm connected with because I've been so vacant lately, working on getting this tool to launch. The late nights, it's been tough, but it's launched. It's out there. It's born. I don't have to spend those late nights anymore. So that's good. So yeah, LinkedIn's the best place. David J. Ebner. I like to say the J is silent. It's just easier to find me when you put a J in there. I'm not precious about it, but it's just easier to find me. Yeah, connect with me on LinkedIn. I accept every single LinkedIn connection. Maybe I shouldn't, but I accept them all. Message me there. If you want to learn more about the tool we just talked about, chatteragent.ai is out there. It's free. You can dive in for free. If you want to like add your team members and build it out for your brand a bit more, there's like a pro paid function for it. But yeah, we're just excited to help people however we can. And I'll leave you with this. I like to say that my friendship is always free. So whether you need help with something or you just have an idea or want to bounce a question off of somebody, I'm not going to only talk to you if you're a client. So feel free to reach out anytime.
I love that. Thank you so much for this conversation today. This was a good, enlightening conversation just around like how we need to think about how we show up in different areas and not just content creation. So I really appreciate it. Thank you. And if you are listening to this and not subscribed, please hit follow and share this with someone who might find it valuable as well.
Thanks.